The movie opens on a dreary day in a bustling Chinese city. Amidst the mundane hustle and bustle, two radio hosts weave tales of love and heartbreak on their show. They receive calls from listeners seeking solace and guidance. One particular caller reveals that it's her birthday, but she feels lonely and hopeless. She confesses that without the radio show, she would have given up altogether. The male host, determined to lift the caller's spirits, suggests a serene location with snow-capped mountains and fields of gold. He describes how he wishes to take his sweetheart there someday. As he speaks, he gazes deeply into the female host's eyes and confesses that being anywhere but in his lover's heart feels like being lost in a foreign land. The atmosphere in the radio station was tense. Chen Mo and Bai He had been together for years, both as co-workers and as a couple. Though Chen Mo was smitten with Bai He, she didn't feel the same way. When Chen Mo spoke sweetly to the lonely caller, Bai He couldn't hold back any longer. She abruptly ended things with him, stating that he was only good at talking about love on the radio, but not in real life. However, the truth was that Bai He had grown tired of the routine and wanted to break free from the monotony of their long relationship. Chen Mo was oblivious to her feelings and became upset at her sudden outburst. He had never realized that she was unhappy because she never spoke up before. To make matters worse, Chen Mo accidentally left his mic on during a song, and everyone listening to the radio heard Bai He's harsh words. The atmosphere in the radio station was heavy with tension. Chen Mo was usually a calm and laid-back guy, but after his breakup with Bai He was embarrassed and angry. He stormed out of the studio, slamming the door behind him. Chen Mo and Bai He had been together since college, and he had envisioned a future with her. He loved her deeply, and her sudden departure had left him heartbroken and miserable. Despite trying to hide his pain, it was evident in his work. He had always offered words of warmth and comfort to his callers, but now he talked about heavy subjects like death and played loud rock music that few enjoyed. To make matters worse, Chen Mo's mother was battling Alzheimer's disease, and her condition was deteriorating rapidly. She could barely remember him, and he had to constantly worry about her safety. Chen Mo's mother lives alone, but luckily, Mao Shiba, Chen Mo's cousin, keeps an eye on her when he can. Mao is a creative and imaginative young man who loves to invent useless things. Unfortunately, his inventions often end up being more destructive than useful. Mao is unemployed, and Chen Mo is forced to pay for all his expenses, including food and housing. Despite his quirks, Mao catches the attention of a pretty police officer named Xiao Rong. She teases him when his inventions fail and chases after him when his experiments go awry. Although Mao is so focused on his inventions that he doesn't realize it, Xiao Rong is secretly infatuated with him. She follows him wherever he goes, even while on duty. Chen Mo's best friend from college, Sam, is also struggling, but not entirely by his fault. He's a hard worker and takes on odd jobs to make some extra cash. The problem is that he sends all of his money to his girlfriend Yan Qi, who lives overseas. Yan Qi is gorgeous, almost like a model, and Sam works hard to pay for her extravagant lifestyle. Despite this, Sam doesn't mind. He's been dating Yan Qi for 8 years, ever since he came to her rescue when she was accused of stealing money from her roommate in college. Yan Qi's reputation was ruined after the incident, and Sam stood by her side, supporting her. Since then, they've been in a long-distance relationship, but Yan Qi spends most of her time away from him. Chen Mo, Sam, and Mao are inseparable, and for good reason. They all live together in Chen Mo's apartment, and he helps both Sam and Mao with their financial struggles. Since his breakup with Bai He, Chen Mo needs a new co-host for his radio show. Only one person is willing to work with him, a young, pretty woman named Yao Zi who has a massive crush on him. At first glance, Yao Zi appears to be quiet and reserved, with a calm voice and hidden smiles. However, on her first day at the station, a listener insulted Chen Mo, and Yao Zi was quick to defend him. She called the man out for being lazy in his relationship and blamed him for his marital problems. Chen Mo was taken aback by her sudden outburst. How could someone so cute and shy have such harsh words? Despite his confusion, he couldn't help but be impressed by Yao Zi's boldness and confidence. After the heated call with the listener ends, Yao Zi realizes that she lost her cool in front of her new colleague and crush. She fumbles with her headphones and apologizes to Chen Mo, who is still staring at her in shock. Later, she tries to make amends by offering him some noodles, but Chen Mo suspects her motives. He thinks that Bai He sent her to sabotage his show, and his anger towards his ex-girlfriend clouds his judgment. He takes his frustration out on Yao Zi and tells her to leave. Little did Chen Mo know that Yao Zi's outburst would actually increase their audience. The next day, Chen Mo tells Yao Zi to continue speaking her mind on the show because he genuinely enjoyed it. Yao Zi is taken aback and thinks he's being sarcastic, but Chen Mo is sincere. Overjoyed, Yao Zi starts doing cartwheels, which surprises Chen Mo. He had initially thought she was too harsh, but seeing her so happy makes him realize how starved he was for a compliment. Meanwhile, Sam is in high spirits as he talks to his long-distance girlfriend on the phone. Sam is living in a bunk bed at Chen Mo's apartment, while his girlfriend is staying in a fancy hotel, paid for by him. Despite her constant complaints and belittling, Sam remains hopelessly in love with her. He's even saving up to buy an apartment where they can start their life together. At the radio station, Bai-hee compliments Yao-zi on her work with Chen-mo and tries to lure her away to work for her instead. Chen-mo overhears their conversation and becomes furious, accusing Bai-hee of trying to steal Yao-zi away from him. Yao-zi is back to her shy and reserved self, believing that she doesn't have any real talent to be stolen by Bai-hee. Chen-mo is so furious with Bai-hee that he decides to make a bet. He bets that he'll have the highest ratings on the station within a month, and if he wins, Bai-hee has to marry him. But Bai-hee doesn't find the bet amusing. She calls Chen-mo childish and insists that if she wins, he'll have to walk around wearing a sign that says "I am an idiot." Chen-mo remains unbothered and even threatens to harm Bai-hee if he wins. Yao-zi is confused by Chen-mo's behavior, especially when she witnesses him interacting lovingly with his mother at home. It's difficult to reconcile his loud and brash personality with his kind and caring nature towards his mother. It's clear that Chen-mo is still struggling to come to terms with his breakup with Bai-hee, and his anger towards her is affecting his behavior in unexpected ways. The next day at the station, Yao-zi is a completely different person. She stumbles over her words when answering calls, and Chen-mo has to take charge once again. It's not ideal, as Chen-mo is still struggling to get over his breakup with Bai-hee. After their show, Chen-mo and Yao-zi go out together, and he asks her what happened earlier. Yao-zi explains that she doesn't usually speak out, but the man on the phone was insulting Chen-mo, so she felt the need to defend him. However, Chen-mo remains unaware of her crush on him. On their way back home, Chen-mo tries to provoke her by insulting her looks and confidence, but Yao-zi remains calm and agrees with him. Chen-mo keeps pushing her to speak her mind like she did on her first day, but she remains reserved. Meanwhile, Mao runs away from Xiao-rong once again, but this time she catches him. She asks him about his life, including his past relationships. When Mao asks her the same question, she reveals that she was once stood up by a man she almost married. Xiao-rong values honesty above all else, which is why she is drawn to Mao. The three friends are all struggling in their relationships. Chen-mo is clearly still in love with Bai-hee, but he pretends to hate her and behaves rudely when they interact. Mao is attracted to Xiao-rong, but he's also intimidated by her and unsure about what their relationship could mean. Meanwhile, Sam is in love with a beautiful but selfish woman who only uses him for his money. Mao eventually starts dating Xiao-rong, who supports his creative endeavors. However, Chen-mo and Yao-zi are still struggling to recreate the passion of their first day working together, and Chen-mo is frustrated because he's going to lose his bet. Meanwhile, Yao-zi falls sick, and with her illness comes her frustration and temper. She starts responding to callers on the radio in a dry and sarcastic manner, and Chen-mo helps by being honest instead of using clichés. However, Yao-zi's condition worsens, and they have to cut the show short and take her to the hospital. Chen-mo stays with her, and when she's delirious with a high fever, she mentions a beautiful place she wants to visit. Chen-mo doesn't realize that Yao-zi heard about the beautiful place from one of his radio monologues, suggesting that she's liked him for a while. Chen-mo loses the bet because he took Yao-zi to the hospital and didn't finish the show. He wears the "I'm an idiot" sign with a grin because they still got second place despite leaving early. He's convinced that if they do a whole show with Yao-zi's sarcastic humor, they could beat Bai-hee's first place ranking. The next day, Sam's girlfriend Yan-chi arrives in China to a surprise engagement party that Sam prepared for her. However, the happy event quickly turns sour when Yan-chi tells Sam that she came back only to break up with him. At the party, Chen-mo keeps glancing at Bai-hee, making Yao-zi feel uncomfortable. After the party, Sam has an outburst and fights with Chen-mo over his rude comments towards Yan-chi. In the aftermath of the party, Sam is heartbroken as Yan-chi breaks up with him. Despite putting on a brave face, Sam is deeply affected, and his friends try to comfort him. As Yan-chi prepares to leave, she tells Sam to be happy, but as he watches her car disappear from view, he can't contain his emotions any longer. He runs after the car, screaming that he can't live without her. After Sam's departure, Mao is surprised when Xiao-rong proposes to him during a robbery, and he starts considering proposing to her too. He seeks help from Chen-mo, who had planned to propose to Bai-hee and had a scrapbook full of ideas. Meanwhile, Bai-hee is struggling financially due to a bad deal with her manager, and her car is about to be seized for debt. Chen-mo crashes into her car, injuring himself in the process so he can give her the insurance money. He even mortgages his house to pay for it. After the accident, Chen-mo, his friends, and Yao-zi go on a trip to the city Yao-zi had mentioned before. Mao decides to propose to Xiao-rong in a beautiful location with the help of Chen-mo's proposal plans. They choose a clearing surrounded by pine woods and a snow-capped mountain with a cardboard church in the center. Mao proposes, and Xiao-rong accepts.
我爱你，你可以嫁给我吗？
什么才？
Meanwhile, Chen Mo and Yao Zi witness the romantic proposal. Yao Zi comments that she would say yes if someone proposed to her like that. Chen Mo is happy to see his plan work out, but he still feels sad because Bai He isn't there to share the moment with him. That day, Chen Mo and Mao are watching TV when they see Sam, who has opened a food truck for war refugees. Despite not making much money, Sam continues to make Yan Qi's favorite food to cope with his broken heart. Chen Mo questions whether it's worth changing your life for a woman, but Mao believes that it is. The following day, Chen Mo and Yao Zi explore a small village where there's a lively festival happening. Yao Zi joins in the dancing, and Chen Mo watches her with amazement. They enjoy themselves, and at night, they lie down together to watch the stars. While stargazing, Yao Zi asks Chen Mo if he wants to come back to that same spot a year from then to watch the stars again. Chen Mo and Yao Zi listen as Bai He takes over their radio show and shares their love story. She tells how they first met in college when they were co-hosts at the university's radio station. Their love began with a bet. If Chen Mo won, Bai He would date him, but if she won, he would have to parade around campus with a sign saying "I'm an idiot." Although Chen Mo lost the bet, Bai He agreed to date him anyway. Chen Mo was always a great radio host, telling heartwarming stories that connected with listeners. However, one day he suddenly stopped. Bai He admits that she didn't understand why he changed until she realized that he couldn't talk about love on the radio without truly feeling it. Yao Zi reaches out to the station to arrange a conversation between Chen Mo and Bai He, hoping to resolve things once and for all. The call goes through, but there's only silence from Chen Mo's end. His anger towards Bai He boils up, and he starts venting to Yao Zi without realizing that she's in tears. It takes a moment for him to notice and ask why she's crying. Through her tears, Yao Zi tells him that she's weeping for herself because the one she's fallen for is incapable of reciprocating her feelings. She bolts out of the car in a fit of anger, and he pleads with her to return. She yells back that he has no clue how many people he's helped with his stories, and asks why he can't use his own advice to overcome his own problems. She points out that getting dumped is a common experience, and calls him self-centered and frail for always thinking his problems are worse than everyone else's. Chen Mo tries to make amends, but Yao Zi won't hear it. She walks off to clear her head, eventually returning to tell Chen Mo that she'll help him marry Bai He so he can hurt her whenever he feels like it. As they go back to their normal routine, Chen Mo discovers a flash drive containing Yao Zi's job interview and begins watching it. Yao Zi shares how she felt scared and lonely when she first arrived in the city. Unable to explore, she stayed home and listened to Passing Through Your World, Chen Mo's radio program, which brought her comfort and joy. Working at a convenience store, she drew a picture on the wall that showed herself and her future aspirations. On a rainy day, a guy showed up and drew an umbrella in her drawing. She later found out it was the host of her favorite radio show, Chen Mo himself. On her birthday, feeling alone, she called the show to talk. Chen Mo shares a special place he wants to visit with the woman he loves, a place with a gorgeous blue sky, snowy peaks, and golden fields. However, Bai He rudely interrupts and announces that she wants to end their relationship. After that day, both Chen Mo and Yao Zi can't shake the feeling that the breakup happened because of Yao Zi's phone call to Chen Mo. To alleviate her guilt and assist Chen Mo, Yao Zi decides to apply for the job he suggested. After watching Yao Zi's job interview, Chen Mo feels aimless. He discovers that there was a girl who liked him, but he never realized it. Adding to his despair, Yao Zi promised to assist him with Bai He, and she even sets up a surprise using Mao's help, a projector showcasing happy moments between Chen Mo and Bai He during their time together. Bai He is shocked and touched by the gesture, but when Chen Mo shows up, they gaze at each other without any emotional spark. Meanwhile, Yao Zi observes their reunion as former lovers, believing they will surely end up together. It stings, as she changed her entire life for Chen Mo. Bai He embraces Chen Mo tightly, and after a brief pause, he returns the hug. Not wanting to witness the man she loves with the woman he supposedly adores any longer, Yao Zi departs. Unbeknownst to Chen Mo, Yao Zi visits his mother to ensure she will take care of herself since Yao Zi won't be around anymore. She then departs permanently. Meanwhile, Chen Mo and Bai He discuss their relationship and where it went wrong. Chen Mo believes love is enough, but Bai He values being with the right person more. She explains that she wants to enjoy life as she didn't when she was younger, having started dating Chen Mo too soon. Bai He returns the car insurance money that Chen Mo gave her, and they decide to rekindle their friendship after finding closure. Finally comprehending her words, Chen Mo realizes that one cannot touch others with love when devoid of it. Once Bai He departs, Chen Mo tries to contact Yao Zi, but to no avail. He decides to visit the radio station and broadcast a message, expressing his search for her. However, Yao Zi doesn't tune in. She boards a bus back to her hometown. Following Chen Mo's broadcast, everyone listening to the radio parks their cars in the street, preventing Yao Zi from leaving. During her bus ride, Yao Zi hears Chen Mo talk about her once again. He tells his listeners that although she tends to dwell on her flaws and sees herself as the weakest card in the deck, the game cannot go on without her. Listening to his words, Yao Zi weeps and sends him a message, thanking him for letting her enter his world. However, she never contacts him again after that. Days later, some guys that Xiao Rong arrested ambush her, and she gets attacked. Mao tries to help her but ends up getting severely injured and dying in Xiao Rong's arms. Mao's passing deepens Chen Mo's misery, leaving him feeling numb after losing everyone he cared for. Time passes, but the memories remain a heavy burden for him to bear. Nearly a year later, Chen Mo has relocated to his dream city and appears to be thriving. He still hosts his radio show, using it to express his emotions and to speak to Yao Zi, hoping she might still be listening. Despite the passage of time and his ability to move forward from losing Mao and Sam, he still feels an emptiness where Yao Zi once resided. He patiently awaits her return. One day, a major disturbance arises amongst the city's populace, and he takes responsibility for it. The commotion seems to trigger all of Chen Mo's negative emotions, leaving him feeling disoriented and alone upon returning home, unsure of where to turn or what to do next. Chen Mo has dinner with his mother, who prepared a large amount of food in anticipation of her 3 sons, Mao, Sean, and Sam, and their wives arriving. However, Chen Mo is saddened as he remembers that all of his friends are gone, leaving only his ailing mother behind. Overwhelmed with grief and feeling hopeless, Chen Mo visits the radio station once again to speak to Yao Zi. He reflects on how some people won't return because they have their own paths to follow, but he knows where he needs to go. He promises that if she's merely passing through, he will be waiting for her at the end of her journey. This is Chen Mo's final attempt to express his feelings to Yao Zi via the radio, and if she doesn't appear, he will accept that she's moved on with her life, and he must do the same. He revisits the spot where Mao proposed to Xiao Rong, a happy day they all spent together. This location is also where he once spoke of visiting with his beloved, and Yao Zi overheard him. He stands near the cardboard church they built for Mao and Xiao Rong, gazing at the snowy mountains, golden meadows, and bright blue sky, waiting for Yao Zi. Suddenly, she arrives, dressed in a flowing white gown, and their paths finally converge once again. The moral of the story is to speak up about your feelings and be honest with yourself and others. It's also about finding happiness within yourself rather than relying on others to provide it for you.